additional comments on that question, we will move on to our second question, which deals with the January 6th Commission and the Capitol protest. In May of last year, the House of Representatives voted on and passed the January 6th Commission designed to investigate the protests that took place at the U.S. Capitol building. Representative Van Taylor was one of only 2 Republican representatives from Texas who voted in favor of the commission. The January 6th Commission vote failed in the Senate, which included Senators Cruz and Cornyn voting against the measure. Hundreds of January 6th arrests have been made, many without bail, and at least 3 people remain in jail who have never been charged with a crime. If you had been a representative at the time, how would you have voted on the January 6th Commission? And if you become our representative, what would you do, if anything, to help those still imprisoned? And we'll start with Ricky.
Of course, I would not have voted for the January 6th Commission. Once again, Van Taylor, and this is what kind of surprises me, even talking to Republicans, that how many people are not aware that Van Taylor voted to certify Joe Biden, and he also voted for the January 6th Commission. It is our responsibility to make sure that conservatives through Congressional District 3 understand how he has voted and how he has turned his back on us in Washington, D.C. Of course, I would not have voted for the January 6th Commission. We can see right now that Nancy Pelosi is just simply using that as another political tool to persecute Trump supporters. And there's no bigger Trump supporter than one right here. I promise you that. You know, we see how they have taken the Trump people that worked in the Trump administration. They're taking their emails and their text messages. They're just doing that to persecute us one more time. So what I would do, and I promise you this, when I get into Congress, I will work every single day to put this commission to rest. We've got to make sure that Nancy Pelosi cannot use this to persecute Republican patriots like me and you. And we've got to make sure that those people, those poor souls that are in solitary confinement, get their due process and get them out of jail.
Thank you, Ricky. Mr. Ivanovsky.
Thank you. I would have voted it down. This is a First Amendment issue, and that's the hallmark of our Constitution. If you can't peacefully protest and address grievances with their government, then we have no constitutional government. That's called communism or one world order. I believe it'll be disclosed that an FBI informant by the name of Ray Elps helped instigate and led the charge on the Capitol. Patriots are allowed to peacefully protest. Meanwhile, last year, summer of 2020, BLM, Antifa burned, looted, and killed police officers in our city. My dad, who owned a 6-story condo last year, summoned me, and we formed a group of Minutemen to hoard off a rage mob of about 400 who shot out windows, spray painted downtown Dallas. As far as the January 6th Commission or what I would do about the prisoners, I would join hands with Louis Gohmert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, who I met at CPAC, and I would hard press the DC jail why these prisoners haven't had their habeas corpus. They need to be brought before a court of law. If there's nothing to hide, he who hides nothing hides nothing. So I yield my time.
Thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Sell.
That's the ultimate softball question in this group. Would you have voted for the January 6th Commission? But I want to go back to the Congress people, both men and women, who tried to get into the jail to see the people who are incarcerated in solitary confinement. There was one Texas congressman who went on that trip. It was Louis Gohmert. It was not Van Taylor. One Texas congressman tried to get into the jail to do something about their situation. But I want to go back to the consequence of this action. It goes well beyond these folks that are still in jail a year later with no charges, which is absolutely unconstitutional. It started with the Patriot Act, let's just be honest. But the consequences now are the January 6th Commission is being used to intimidate the rest of conservatives across the nation. Every action has consequences, And that's the consequence now. Some people are saying, I don't dare go and petition my government, which is a First Amendment right, because they might show up with the SWAT vehicles at my door, kick down my door, handcuff me in front of my family, and take me to jail. So the impact of the January 6th, yes, we read about it every morning in the newspaper, but the impact goes well beyond that, folks. We have got to not only terminate this, we've got to turn back the consequences of this, making sure that First Amendment rights are absolute. There's a reason it's a First Amendment. Those 5 rights, liberties in the First Amendment are first for a reason. We've got to restore the First Amendment rights across the board and do away with this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Harp.
I absolutely would not have voted for the January 6th commission. We have decided to divorce our due process and to hold political prisoners for a year now in prison. We should let that sink in. My son was there that day on January 6th. He was in the Cannon building while his congressman was on the floor ready to vote. Remember, we just wanted 6 days. We wanted, 10 days of an audit, a full forensic audit, which we had precedents from 1867 to do that. I believe in my deepest of my hearts that January 6th protests, that those that went into the Capitol were goaded in. I've seen plenty of video. I believe the DC police allowed them. And I believe Nancy Pelosi had the authority and was asked whether she wanted additional security, and she denied it. Even yesterday, I heard reports that there are papers in her office that she will not release. Having my son there that day brought it home to me. Having his text messages, his emails, and all of his correspondence threat to be subpoenaed by the DOJ brings it home to this mom. And I'm telling you, if it can happen to me, it can and it will happen to each of us. If we do not still collectively stand up against this tyrannical government, we have nobody to blame but ourselves.
Thank you.
Hey, Darren, can I have 30
Yes, sir.
seconds? Or
30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, so July 27th, 2021, I called Van Taylor's office and I spoke to Chief of Staff Lonnie Dietz. I asked him to co-sponsor HR 2317, the We Will Not Comply Act, because that'll protect my job from the shots and the mask. I also asked him to co-sponsor HR 3860, which would have prohibited the shot being mandated to the military. Lonnie told me that Van was going to go over to the DC jail the next day with Marjorie Taylor Greene, Louis, Matt Gaetz, and I think it was Paul Gosar. Well, I was on TV. Never mind.
Yep.
Go my
Thank
turn.
you, sir.